which is
Second one Oh, and the second one is because I believe the, Google Docs recommends the standard battleship build.
mhm.
I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure um, that's what most people will run.
The
Google
second
Doc recommends
this
standard battleship build for most.
the secondaries, in my opinion, on this ship are a bit of a trap. It's a bit of a noob trap. If you want a secondary battleship, go play Kerr first, or go play Schlieffen, right? Or at tier 9, go play Pommern, or go play Prince Ruprecht. But to me, unless you're playing co-op, there's no reason to play a secondary spec version of this battleship. You could do it. I just don't think it's as useful as a standard Japanese battleship build. Personal opinion.
Eh, that's kinda the trap. That's the problem with the ship. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be the secondary build. It's supposed to be the secondary version for Japanese battleships,
Yes.
but it doesn't do a good job of it.
No.
Yeah, but because it's supposed to be, most people will do it. As I said, I don't think it's good.
The nice thing is you have the flexibility to choose between a standard battleship build or a secondary battleship build. French battleships as secondaries. The problem with French battleships is you're forced to use IFHE if you want to do damage, but then you have your fire chance. So you're stuck with a ship that doesn't really do what you want it to do. Most people who do French battleships, if they're going to do secondary spec, they're going to do it without IFHE to set fires. But they're going to use the captain skills that buff the main battery. What is it? Close quarters expert, something like that. Um, Otherwise, it's not that useful.
You don't build French for secondaries.
That's what I'm saying, exactly.
It's just like
But
It's
I
a trap.
posted it on the Discord today, I think somewhere. I was playing on the PTS and I was fighting up a tree and he was shooting secondaries at me at like 12 kilometers. And I'm like, you're a secondary spec? So, yeah, and he's like, yes, and I'm like, they don't pen. Oh, they do with IFHE. They pen so much. No, they don't.
no. So
Like
here's
this guy shot like, I don't know, 300 secondary hits at me. No, it was like 140 hits, and he did like 4,000 damage.
the
Good
problem.
job.
The problem with secondaries is you have to think of them as bonus damage. You absolutely can't think of them as your primary damage. Even with the Schlieffen, I would argue, your secondaries aren't your primary damage source. So, alright, let's get into the build here for NBA. NBA, you're more than welcome to join us on Discord if you want. So, here's the Iwami. You've got your 410mm guns, 4x2s, and you're starting with main battery, damage control. Here's your secondaries, damage control 2, concealment, secondaries 2. Personally, I would put this in main battery. I think you want to get as many main battery shots off as possible. Secondaries, I wouldn't care about them, personally. They're nice to have, but if you care about your secondaries that much, over here, you'd be using Oxmod. Although, if you did that, you would lose torpedoes. So I understand that too. Here in slot 3, I could understand secondaries. Your aiming systems I think is better choice. But going secondaries is okay as well, I guess. What is your range on these? 10.5. Okay. Am I missing anything, guys?
Yeah, I would never go like on any ship the secondary more than a 6 slot. Even if it's a secondary ship, I wouldn't do it.
The only one that I can see we've talked about before is Schlieffen. Everything else, you give up a lot to do secondaries, mainly just constantly getting your main batteries on target. So I would absolutely run main battery here.
The closest I would do would be the unique upgrade on the core first, which buffs both the main battery reload and the secondary reload, but costs you range.
NBA, is this a special captain or is it a regular captain? You've been doing some cruiser secondary builds on PTS, make some cruisers 12.5. That is true, Kernel of Truth. That is something that can happen. This is a regular captain. Okay. Now, I'm going to say it because I know Grunty is ready to say it. This is a premium ship. There's no reason not to put Yamamoto on this ship. No reason at all, unless you've got respect for Yamato and you want to play this as a secondary ship, and obviously that doesn't jive well. But other than that...
I mean, honestly, I guess the extra heal would be nice if you get the first blood. But buffed skill-wise, like, you're not even taking grease the gears. So Yamamoto doesn't actually do that much unless you proc the talents.
How do I get Yamato your new? Yamato is the tier 10 of the tech tree Japanese battleship line. So eventually you will work through tier 7 Nagato, tier 8 Amagi, tier 9 Izumo, tier 10
Wait.
Yamato. Yeah.
I think he meant Yamamoto. I think he meant how he gets the legendary captain.
The captain is through a special campaign. You, when you play the game, can choose 2 campaign missions at once. If you have premium time, you can choose a 3rd. So there is the Isoroku Yamamoto campaign in the game that you need to complete in order to get Yamamoto. So therefore, he is a free captain, and you should absolutely be trying to prioritize that, along with Halsey, because that's another free captain for the Americans. Both do really good. Now,
They're even 15-point commanders when you get them. It's a bit of a grind, though.
And if you want to speed up the grind, play their respective nations. So
Right.
for Yamamoto, play the Japanese ships. You'll research it a little bit faster.
Sure. Now, there's also the Suzukis, which, as you can see, they have a buff on emergency repair specialist. It goes from 3% to 4%. It's probably not important. But I just want to point out that the Suzukis are really good for destroyers, because for destroyers, they get survivability expert buff down here in this slot. So, keep that in mind. Anyway, normal captain. You start off with Gunfeeder, go into IFHE, go into Adrenaline Rush, go into Manual Secondaries, go into Secondary Range. So you got trolled into going for a secondary build. Now, what that does, your secondaries, what's your penetration? 37mm for your 100s. What's your penetration for the 155s? 32. 32 is the magic number. 32 means that you will pen almost every cruiser bow stern. You will pen British, French, and some battleship bow and stern armor, as well as, of course, superstructure. So 32 is what you want. So you did that by doing IFHE and your secondary builds. I don't know that I like Gunfeeder in slot 1. I think slot 1, you'd be better off doing preventative maintenance to keep your torpedo tubes alive. Personal opinion there.
Yeah, especially with the changes that it also buffs the secondary.
Yeah.
And AA survivability. The other alternative is honestly demo expert here, because you're halving your fire chance by taking IFHE.
Sure.
So getting this back up again is not a bad idea.
Your fire chance is 3.5%. Watch the change when you add this 1% change. For a salvo of your secondaries, it's 9% better fire chance. So, yeah, I still don't like the idea of going secondary build, but that's okay. What you've gone for. Let's move down
It is workable.
Yeah. Let's move down to your flags. You are not wearing protection. You mad lad, my dude. Detonation flag, very important. You got fire reduction, flood reduction, heal boost, fire chance, secondaries. ship speed. Other ones that would be worth picking up. Ramming flag for a battleship is always worth picking up. And then consumables is always worth picking up as well.
Very, very risky to run that fire chance flag if you don't run the death flag.
Because now you've got an extra 5% chance of detonation. So you're basically tempting fate here, okay? All right.
I wonder if his death pick is by detonating. That would be funny.
That would be wonderful. All right, let's take a look at your game. Here you go. So we're on neighbors. This is a random battle, yes. There's a tier 8 carrier. Otherwise, you are considered top tier. There's also a tier 8 submarine you have to deal with. And you're in this sexy black camouflaged Iwami.
That is not neighbors.
Oh, I'm sorry. Crestone Alpha? Yeah, Crestone Alpha. I was looking at the colors and not the island formations. Anyways.
Awaiting instructions.
You're going to head to A. It's a good idea because you are on the flank. So stay on the flank. Do the thing. I like it. What do you got for enemies? Duncan could be a problem. North Carolina, if you show broadside, is a problem. Bismarck is a problem if you get within secondary range. Nagato is a problem if you show broadside as well. You don't care about Neptune. You probably don't care about the show. Colonel Bologna, you probably don't care about either. Algeria, if he sets you on fire, that's a problem. Fletcher's an issue from a torpedo standpoint. Rom, you probably don't care about either. The sub-salmon is a threat. Best music of any CC. Thank you, Only Smed.
And there's the Hornet.
Appreciate you. What was that, Grunty?
I said, and so is the Hornet. Also a big threat.
Oh yeah, the carrier. I forgot about him. Now, the best way to negate a carrier is you sail next to somebody else. Whether that be a Takao, another battleship. Just make it so that it's punishing for the enemy carrier. Sail within your area, your range, and you're good. HE on the Bismarck? What?
Is that your first game in the ship? Still HE loaded from the default?
He said it's one of the first games he played.
We've all made that mistake.
Of course. Now, if you want to keep your targeting on the Bismarck here, it looks like you're worried about the island. You could also slow down hitting the S key.
You should be using zoom in. You just use the shift to zoom in, not the mouse wheel.
The shift key to zoom in makes it a little bit quicker. You can snap zoom instead of scrolling zoom in. It saves you some time. So far that hasn't had an impact, but it can.
Submarine is probably in the ASW.
Yep. MBA is firing ASW. Bismarck.
Without zooming in.
Bismarck is showing you broadside. Okay. A little behind him, not too much.
Also a little bit low.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, why are we turning around here?
Awaiting instructions.
Yeah, the turnaround doesn't make too much sense.
Hmm.
The enemy is pretty light on this flank. Like, it's a submarine, it's a Bismarck, and what is that cruiser on the island?
That is
Colonel
the
Bologna.
sailboat.
Yeah, this
Long-
is... You could play this way more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
You should actually
Especially,
flank this.
especially considering your destroyer seems to actively be hunting down that submarine,
Mm-hmm.
which eliminates a big threat.
Yeah, you're talking about the Groningen, right? Hunting down the sub-salmon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're a tier 9. You are the top tier ship in this game. You're supposed to run around and bully ships.
Right.
That Bismarck, you can work with your team to kill him. That tier 7 cruiser off on the side, not even a threat. So you should be Wing into them.
Right. Yeah, I feel like if you weren't so afraid that Colonel Baloney could have been dead or at least gotten whacked harder. Um, but clearly you've gotten enough experience in this game to understand the importance of like backing off and playing it safe, which is what you did with that circle maneuver that you did.
Yeah, but you want to work on your situational awareness. Just kind of look at the mini-map more often,
Mm-hmm.
because about everyone was detected there, so you could have
Mm-hmm.
made the choice and say, okay, this is a 5 or 6v3. We can really
Right.
push in.
Right. Ah, we won the Stream Raiders game. Let me get the next one going here.
You basically gave this baloney enough time to turn around and get out.
Yes. Work on your situational awareness. Fair enough.
Yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, Mahan also, the Nelson already died too. So like, if you could have made use of his death there by already being at like H2, and
Mm-hmm.
at least putting pressure on their cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, why are we still being kind of passive?
You would like to see him in I2 at this point.
Or at least kind of being more aggressive. Because
Yeah.
right now it's either he's having steering issues or he's kind of lost. Because
Well,
he's only been firing 2 guns for the last minute and a half.
he's also switching sides a lot, right? So his rear turrets are just constantly switching.
Pretty much. It's like he doesn't know where to go now.
Mm-hmm. Now, here you're zooming in again with the scroll wheel. And you might have gotten a salvo on that Neptune just a little bit earlier. Yeah, you got one ricochet on him. Big deal. Now, I like to free look, and I'm going to mention this right now because I'm noticing this here. You are constantly zooming back and then looking around and zooming back in. You'll note that your turrets are constantly turning as a result. A better way to handle this is that you use the right mouse button to free look. You hold that button down, look around, and you let go when you want to zoom back in. The reason that's different is your turrets stay turned and focused on whatever you were looking at just before you go into free look. That will help you with your DPM.
Yeah, you're also still not used to aiming with the ship. You've underled Bismarck several times already.
And I think part of that is because NBA keeps switching targets. He's looking at somebody, then he's looking at somebody else, then he's looking at somebody else. Then he goes back to the original. When you do that, it's difficult to learn what's the proper lead on your target. Look, now you're back on the Bismarck again. Okay, but look at how close he is to your reticule. Those shells have no chance in hell of actually landing on the Bismarck.
Yeah.
Only Smack made a good point here in chat too. Like you spec your ship for secondaries, and you only had a lower tier battleship and a bottom tier cruiser on this side.
Yep.
And you still didn't go in. Like, if you don't go in with your secondaries against these targets, against what targets are you planning to actually push and make use of your secondary ship?
It's a very good point.
That's I think it's because he didn't have the situational awareness.
Yeah.
Because most people the common noob trap is actually trying to get
In
into
your
secondary
secondary range, right.
against 12 enemy ships.
Right, because then you just disappear. Oh, look, the Colonel Bologna is broadside to you and very slow. Forget the torpedoes. Just focus on your guns. You're trying to do too much at once. He's advancing. He's moving forward. I might have gone farther to the left here because he's probably going to dive this island once he realizes you're shooting at him. Sure enough, that's exactly what he does, and therefore you only get one overpen on him.
You are consistently underleading your shots. like that's the reason why you're only at 15k damage.
Yep. You're trying too hard, dude. You're trying too hard. Take your time, relax, pick out an individual target, and focus that target until it goes down. Even this Nagato, I think you're under leading.
Yeah, it's definitely underlet again. You might need a different crosshair to help you with the aiming.
Alternately, instead of salvo firing, you can click and drag. So you click, hold down mouse button, and then drag forward of what you're aiming. And you might find more success with your shells because of that.
On new ships like this, you really should be paying attention and focusing on adjusting your shots.
Yep.
Like, okay, I can understand underleading for like the first 3, 4, 5 salvos, but we're like getting close to salvo number 10. You're still underleading.
You got 2 penetrating hits on the Nagato, but they were in the rear half of his ship. It's a Nagato, he only moves at 27 knots. And he's quite large too, so you would expect to get some good hits on him.
Like, I wonder if what I noticed here, if you look at the crosshair, it almost looks like he's. I mean, I know you have the mod here, but it looks like he's lining up the number on seconds with the crosshair directly. Like, if it says like 12 seconds late, he's leading 12 seconds, but he's not taking into account the speed of the enemy ship.
Right. Which has an impact. Now, I'm using a different crosshair than he probably is using. So, there's that to consider too.
Well, if you're using the standard crosshair, that assumes a speed of the target of 20 knots.
Correct.
Which most ships, at least if they're going full speed here, will be faster than 20 knots, which means you need to lead more.
Right. Right. Alright, you started turning to the right, and then you switch your guns left, and then you... turning again here. Okay. You were taking your rear guns out of this game for a while, and now you're turning in quite a bit. You're turning out, I should say, quite a bit, so you can get your 20-kilometer team-killing torpedoes off.
Well, you do have to go in at some point, but the reason he's going in is probably not because he wants to use secondaries.
I think he's going in because he's down 2 ships on his team, and, you know, down a cap, right? Make something happen.
Yeah. Bit late, but you're finally able to get your secondaries in action.
Yep, and there's your manual secondaries. There they go. And as others have said, you put a lot of points into your secondaries. To ignore that they exist for so long is somewhat painful, right? Those shots have no chance in hell of hitting. You'd be better off focusing on this shield in front of you here.
Did he fire his torps at the Nagato by any chance?
Long time ago, I think.
Yeah, don't fire at targets that are just gonna run away like that.
And now the rear turrets are gonna take another minute to turn around.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, you turned the wrong way. You need to get shield with all of your guns while being angled to the North Carolina. This just basically gave full broadside to North Carolina.
Yep. Alright, well, the shield dies to flooding.
You should be also healing too.
Heal's a good idea. You're at max heal potential, so you might as well. There's no reason to hold it here, other than to activate Adrenaline Rush.
And in your middle of 5 enemy ships, you're gonna be in constant combat, so healing is a must.
I've talked about this before. The heal also, the reason you do it early is so that it's on cooldown when you need it next time. The cooldown is off on it. So
that was about 20 seconds not spent healing.
right. I like your angling here, though. At least you recognize the threat of the Iowa, or sorry, Bismarck, and you're angling accordingly.
Hard to tell, but then again, Iwami is not a very easy ship to angle. But we'll be able to quickly tell because your citadel sits high above the water.
Yes, it does.
I think
And
the angle is not good anymore. It was
Oh
good
yeah,
for a while, but now it's not anymore.
that was a
And
10K
you're
stop.
making it hard on yourself to see the angle with the zoom in, zoom out mouse wheel thingy.
ah,
Because you never see your ship how it sits in the water when you do this.
so this is where I'll hit the shift key to snap zoom out, and then I'll see the target that I'm sitting next to. And yeah, you were showing a lot of broadside to that Bismarck. You're very lucky he did not punish you more.
Hmm. Unfortunately, the game result looks like it's getting close to being done.
Game
So
is
unless you get,
over.
yeah, you need your kills now.
Yeah, turning away here is not helping. You're getting your front guns out of the game now.
Yeah, you need to be in position to get a cap. Like you're literally throwing a game for your team.
Yep.
When you're down 2 caps and you're about to lose on point, you need to be at least going for the caps.
Notice the Nagato wisely held his fire and just backed off. He knows he's gonna win.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
So, you spec'd into secondaries to be super aggressive and do damage, and then you were afraid to get in range of those secondaries to do damage. So you wasted a lot of your commander skills. I mean, you got Dreadnought, you got 133k damage, which I'm sure you feel good about. You came in second place. Again, you feel good about, right? But you lost. And you had a lot of opportunities to turn this game around.
remember, you're the top tier ship. You're not supposed to be playing passively like that. You need to
Right.
be taking a lead. Like,
Right.
you are the most powerful ship on the board for your team.
Right.
But you didn't use your opportunity.
Yeah, and you weren't even matched on the same side with the enemy top tier battleship. Like,
No.
you could have. Like, you saw what you did to that Bismarck in the end with your secondaries and your main guns. Like, you could have done this, like, 4 minutes into the game and get him off the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's take a look at your replay render. Now, ad break is in progress. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, and for the entire game you played passively. Like, even when your team was about to lose, you still ran into the backfield.
Yep.
That's not something you want to do at all. At all.
NBA, you're one of the rare people that actually send me games where you're like, hey, I actually want feedback because I felt like I didn't do well. That's the whole point of this freaking channel. So thank you for sending it in. Like, seriously, like, I appreciate this. There are so many people who play like this, don't understand why they don't win. And I think we did a good job of demonstrating that. Way too passive in a ship when you are top tier. You absolutely should. I'm going to pause it here because your instinctive decision was to turn out and run away. Now, that might work when you're tier 7 and bottom tier, but when you're top tier, you really don't want to be doing that, right? You want to keep the pressure on. You may feel you're being picked on, but it's to make you better. That's right, only. That's right. Yep. Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah. It feels that way because there are unfortunately a lot of mistakes that we can go into depth with. But at the same time, by showing us this replay,
Yep.
we're able to show you, hey, this is where you went wrong,
Yep.
and these are the steps you could do to improve your game for next time.
Exactly.
Like, many players will not do the same thing.
And
Will not give us this kind of game.
And
So,
NBA gets it too, which is great, right? I mean, that's very helpful for him, very helpful for the channel as well. It's constructive criticism. Cheers, dude.
Can you pause here for a second?
Yeah. Pausing.
Like, just look at the map control right now.
None.
Like, you're basically down to like 30% of the map at this point.
You got 1/3. So here's the thing, NBA. If I'm in the game and I see this happening at this point, I've already said, okay, I'm probably gonna lose this game, so it's time to make plays. right? It's time for what we call the big D plays. You whip out your big D and you try to make something happen with it. Okay? If you fail, you were going to lose anyways. Who cares? If you succeed, though, hey, what did you make happen, right? And songs are sung of this day.
And more importantly, your PR goes up.
Yes. Cthulhu is correct. He sent me a lot of his replays, and even if they're co-op, I still pick them apart, find mistakes, and just again, we're not here to make fun of people for this, and I know NBA knows that. This is for everybody else who's watching too. This isn't about making fun of players for their decisions. It's trying to help them so that next time they're in similar situations, they go, "Oh wait, I need to do this differently." Looking at this statically, I'd head right for B. Absolutely. Just don't
Yep.
whip out the big D while at work. That is true.
Depends
Straight
on
for-
what kind of depends on your line of work.
True.
I mean, straight for B is probably not the plan here either, because you just get focused down immediately. But you gotta get yourself into the face of the enemy ship.
Thunder
not
Chief.
all of them, but some of them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a choice on that one. You have to go into B because your point is you're simply too low on points.
You're out of options.
Yeah. Okay, you've waited already too long if you're in that position, though. Like, but I mean, yeah, you basically have to go straight for B, but it's too late. You're just gonna get focused down by 6 enemy ships, and
Yeah.
So in that case, it's not good, but there is a chance. He's anchored to about 2 battleships, so North Carolina don't do anything. If he can quickly eliminate Nagato and Bismarck,
Mhm.
in which he at least eliminated Bismarck, and the 2 cruisers, then he does stand a decent chance of turning the game around.
I think the biggest problem here is you're so far behind the rest of your team and you're top tier. If you're tier 7, what you're doing makes sense in a tier 9 game. But you're top tier, dude. You gotta act like that. You gotta be the leader of your team. In terms of damage, in terms of tanking, in terms of power projection. And you're not willing to do that. You're luck checking torps, which probably have no chance in hell of hitting anything either. But I like the sentiment. But right here, I fast forwarded it to this point. Right here, in my opinion, dude, this is your opportunity for the big D play, right? To just
yes,
go.
Turning at this point into B is okay.
Mhm.
I mean, no, it's okay. That's the way when
You
he
need to
has
do
to
it.
go in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like in general, like there's so much damage here left on the table because of the whole wiggling around,
Yep.
not getting the rear turrets into the, and also like the mistake with the leads, like a lot of shells not hitting because the lead isn't enough.
Yep. That's the other part of it too, is your gunnery and aim could use a little work, but a lot of that comes from experience too.
I would really try to work on use the shift key and not the mouse wheel. Like,
It takes a while to get used to it, but once you do, it's very helpful. If you're not willing to use a shift key, at the very least use the right click instead of zooming out. If you hold down the
Yeah.
right mouse button, you keep your turrets pointed where your last known is at, and then you're good.
Because you're constantly zooming in and zooming out, it's very difficult to you have to constantly readjust your aim. And
Yep.
that I think is throwing off your targeting because you're
Yep.
constantly readjusting so much you can't learn.
Yep.
it's true too. And I mean, it's probably a bit personal for everybody, but I think it makes situational awareness much harder if you're constantly zooming in and out instead of just doing the shift.
Of course.
No,
Because
you're
like
right.
you saw in that last engagement against the Bismarck, that firing with that zoom, like you basically had no idea what was behind your ship. You couldn't
Mhm.
even see your angling correctly because
Mm-hmm.
with all the zooming in and out, you basically only got back to your turrets. Like you never saw your whole ship again.
Right.
You didn't see what other ships were looking at you, like nothing. It was just pure tunnel vision into that Bismarck.
Right.
In a sense, there's just too much action for you to track. Like, you're
Yes.
trying to focus on the one ship by aiming at it, but you're zooming out and zooming back in. That means you have to constantly readjust your focus.
Mm-hmm.
So you're too busy trying to do that instead of everything else in the background.
Right. Sigterate, thank you very much for the follow. That should take care of our replay here, guys. We're gonna go into our stream radar screen. Again, thank you very much for sending this one NBA. Um hopefully we gave you some good things to think about. And that's the whole point of this channel. Why we exist. So that's good
Yep,
stuff.
the next replay you'll send in will be a much better game.
Absolutely. Here's what we're gonna do, guys.